Join us now as we explore the vast landscapes of our minds. This is Mind Over Matter.
Good evening, I'm Mitch Friedman, and welcome to Mind Over Matter TV. And I'm really excited about tonight's show. We seem to be really current today. We're talking about the Mayan calendar. And we've got a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, Howard Cooper, here. So welcome to the show, Howard.
Thank you so much, Mitch. It's wonderful to be here today to be able to talk about such a profound and provocative subject.
I know, and it's so up to date. It's just in the store, that's all everybody's talking about. And it's such perfect synchronicity that we're doing this interview today, because I was thinking about the Mayan calendar this morning, and I've taken lots of different trips down to Tikal and all over Guatemala to some of those ruins down there. And one of those trips we took together.
Yep, in 1996 we went to Tikal and we climbed the Pyramid of the Jaguar, the 9 levels, which are symbolic of the 9 underworlds in the Mayan calendar.
Oh, it's pretty exciting. So let's just jump in, because I'm really curious about what's the difference between the Mayan calendar and just the regular calendar that we use every day.
Well, the Gregorian calendar is the calendar that we use every day, and it's a measurement of mechanical time, and it's based on a 365-day a year. And the Mayan calendar measures 2 kinds of time. It also measures mechanical time, and it does it by using a 360-day cycle, which they call a tune. And 360 is the number of degrees in a circle, and a circle is a complete cycle, and the Mayan calendar is a calendar of cycles. Now, the Mayan calendar also measures vibrational time, which is called Kairos time, and that's really what makes it special. It's a 3-dimensional calendar that's really mapping the evolution, the biological evolution of life in the universe, and the evolution of consciousness. To understand the calendar is a pretty big challenge because it has multiple aspects, and we're going to try to do it today and do it as simply as possible.
Perfect. So before we get into all the different details about the calendar, I know that I'm dying to know, and I think that a lot of these viewers are wanting to know, what's happening? What's going to happen? Like, I know that you talk about cycles, and the Mayan calendar is coming to the end of its cycles. So 2012, tell us about it. What's going to happen?
Well, it's really very hopeful, the culmination of the Mayan calendar. It's not apocalyptic or gloom and doom at all. The promise of the calendar is that we're going to move out of duality consciousness into a state of unity consciousness, where we'll feel our oneness with one another, with the planet, with the galaxy, and with the universe.
Boy, that sounds really good. I just went and saw the movie 2012, and it certainly wasn't anything about unity consciousness. In fact, by the end of the movie, the world was destroyed, and the only thing left were these 3 ugly little metal ships that were kind of floating around the ocean. So it's nice to hear that that's not going to happen.
And I would like to reiterate that, Mitch, that is not what's going to happen. It's really an opportunity for humanity to come together and experience a golden age and to grow out of this era where we're always fighting with one another, and it's all us and them, good and bad, right and wrong, all those things that are symbolic of duality consciousness.
Tell us a little bit about, what is duality consciousness? What is unity consciousness?
Well, it's really pretty simple. Duality consciousness is the consciousness that we've been living in, for 16.4 billion years, or not that humans have been alive that long, but since the creation of the universe, where everything is based on positive and negative, good and bad, right and wrong, us and them, where one thing is pitted against another instead of things being unified and coming together and existing in a state of oneness. And that's all unity consciousness is about.
It's so cool to hear you talk about this oneness. For years, since I was 12, I've been studying different religions, and it sounds like, all religions are saying the same thing. It's all about that oneness. So it sounds like we're on our way. This is what we've all been waiting for.
Well, I think it is exactly that.
Yeah, pretty exciting. So Howard, where did the Mayan calendar come from? You know, when did it begin? We know that it's coming to an end, but when did it begin and where did it come from?
Well, that's a huge question, and there isn't one answer to that question. All scholars are not agreeing on what the answer of that question is. Theoretically, they are saying that the calendar began use around the Christ era because they have a god, Quetzalcoatl, which is their equivalent to Christ, and it was during his era that the calendar was created. Now the long count, they call it, began 3,125 years ago, and that was the beginning of one of the 9 underworlds. That was the beginning of higher civilization, and that's when the count began, but they started using the count and keeping track of it on a daily basis around the Christ or the Quetzalcoatl era. Or that's theory.
So I make up, if they're not too sure about the time it began, what about the time that it ends? Is there some controversy about, I know it's supposed to end in 2012, but is there a particular date? Is it before or after?
There is some controversy about when the calendar ends. There's 2 dates being given. The Kalaman version is October 28th, 2011, which is the one that I'm prescribing to, and the other one is December 21st, 2012. Now, the difference in those dates is just a matter of a year, so I don't think it's hugely important, you know, which one you want to believe. But in the research that I've done, I've liked the Kalaman model over the other model.
Yeah, I say better sooner than later. So
Why not?
I'm going for October 28th. And you're right, a year in the big, huge picture is nothing. But being on the planet right now with everything that's going on, October 28th, 2011 sounds like a much better plan to me. It seems like a lot of this stuff that's going to be shifting and changing is already happening, don't you think?
Oh, it definitely is. We're in the 8th underworld now, the galactic underworld, and we're in the 6th night, so we're coming to the end of that underworld. And the final underworld, the universal underworld, begins on March 9th, 2011, so it's just right around the corner. Now, I'm talking a lot about underworld, so maybe it would be a good thing for me to sort of start from the beginning on that subject.
Perfect.
The Mayan calendar is made of 9 underworlds or 9 waves, and these waves are vibrational. And the first underworld began with the Big Bang 16.4 billion years ago. And that was catalyzed by the first major vibrational emanation from the universal center, from the cosmic tree of life. And the evolutionary intention of the first underworld, which is called the cellular underworld, was first the development of matter, the development of our universe, and then finally the creation of single-cell organisms, which took place during the 7th day of that first underworld. Now here's another complexity. Each underworld is divided into what they call 13 heavens, and those 13 heavens are also called 7 days and 6 nights. And the fruition of each underworld takes place during the final day, the 7th day of that underworld. And in the middle of that underworld, I'm speaking very approximately when I'm saying the middle of that underworld, the next underworld begins, or the next major emanation from the cosmic tree of life is activated. And so after single-cell organisms are created in the 7th day of the cellular underworld, we get the advent of the mammalian underworld. And the evolutionary intention of the mammalian underworld is obviously the development of mammals. And after mammals were developed, we go to the 3rd underworld, which is called the anthropod underworld, and that's the development of primates. That's the evolutionary intention of that underworld. Now, 2 million years ago was the advent of the human underworld,